You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mari Mukwanda. It is 11:51 on this Tuesday, and you know what happens on a Tuesday? We have My Journey to Islam. On today's My Journey to Islam, we feature Ammara Patel, a Portuguese-born living in South Africa, and she's here to share her story with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Ammara, and shukran for joining me.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having me.
All right, so your journey began in 2006. Take us back to that day when you took your Shahada, and also before that, how you came to learn about Islam.
Um, it's a very long time ago. My journey actually started around about 2005 when I started doing some major research into the whole religion and all the pros and the cons and everything. I was born into a very Roman Catholic family, and my mom used to work at the Oriental Plaza at that stage when I was still in school. So I was kind of exposed to the religion and to the way of life. And I was always impressed at the calmness, what's the word, the simplicity of the people that I used to visit when my mom was at work. I used to visit there and I used to see how these people lived at the Oriental Plaza, and I was so impressed. But in about 2005, when I met my husband, I was encouraged to do some research. So I did some major research online. Then I found, then when you do all the research online, you see all the stories from previous reverts, and then you see it's like a whole change of lifestyle. So I was a bit skeptical at first, but then speaking to my husband and then doing further research, then you just see that this is a right way to do it. This is the correct way of doing it. It's the correct religion. It's the right religion at that stage. So, and the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. So at that stage, that's when I made my decision that that was the way for me to go. And then I said my shahada in 2006. Actually, the day my husband and I got married was the day I did my shahada. So I think that was the best day of my life also. So yeah.
All right, so coming from a staunch Roman Catholic home, how did your family react to your reverting to Islam?
Yeah, at first, not so well. I will be honest, my parents, especially my mom, she always came back and she says, I worked at the Oriental Plaza. There's a lot of mixed families, lots of mixed marriages. Why do you need to revert? And I'm, trying to explain to my parents that this is just the way I want to do things. This is it's my decision. It's no one's forcing me to do it. It was my own decision to do it. So at first there was a bit of a backlash from them. They didn't want to accept it at first, but I think over the time and as we grew older, both of us, my parents and myself, they've come to accept it. When we go visit them, they like sort of treat my husband better sometimes than what they treat me at times. So so we're all okay with it. They've accepted it, and we've just moved on. And at this stage, we're all happy with one another as we are. So it's a good place to be at the moment.
Alhamdulillah. Now, talk to us about some of the challenges that you have faced, especially as a revert Muslim, and more so when you reverted to Islam.
I think at the beginning, the biggest challenge was learning the religion and the madrasa, because I wasn't, when I was a Roman Catholic, I actually used to teach catechism. So changing all of that was a bit of a challenge. I went to madrasa when I first reverted, so to read your namaz, to try and learn the Quran, which I'll be honest, I still have a bit of an issue now. I only read the English Quran because I still can't read Arabic. So I am trying. But I think the main thing is obviously the language, trying to make sure that you pronounce things properly. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the other challenge I had was learn how to tie your hijab, because that's
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that, nobody teaches you. You have to go on to YouTube and find ways of doing it. So that was the main challenge. And then and then the one challenge I've had actually now recently, I think it was actually last year, was my husband was reporting on the whole COVID vaccine, and you get you get a few community members that are against this. I don't know. I don't want to get into that whole discussion now, but
Yes.
my mother-in-law, or should I say, my late mother-in-law and myself were actually targeted on Facebook, and we were called some terrible names. And at that stage, I remember uh, Mulana Suleiman Mula came to our house, and she was actually telling me that the actions of some Muslims is not the actions of all Muslims. So,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get to grips with the way that some Muslims treat other Muslims is a bit of a challenge. But luckily, and Alhamdulillah, I've got my husband and I've got other sheikhs that I look up to that are there to guide you, and you know, and that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I'm sorry for your experience, but like your mother-in-law said, some actions of some Muslims are not actions of all Muslims, and you will come across people who like you and people who don't like you. Unfortunately, that is part of life.
That is true.
Now, who you just mentioned that you do have some sheikhs who you look up to. So, who inspired your journey to Islam?
Um, when I was doing my research, I came across a lot of lectures from Mulana Suleiman Mullah and also Mufti Menk. They, I think their lectures, when you're watching them on YouTube, they kind of inspire you. They tell you the simplicity of the religion, and that was one of my main inspirations. And then also, obviously, the local imam when I went to madrasa, the the alima, she helped me. So those were the people that guided me, and obviously not leaving my husband out. Whenever I have an issue, I always turn to him. And my kids also, because they're all in madrasa at the moment, and whenever I have a quick challenge, I always just turn to my daughter and just ask, okay, just give me the quick, what does the kitab say about this and this?
Mm,
So I am surrounded by people who care, which is a good thing. And and if I'm stuck or struggle with anything, it's always a quick um, phone call or a quick WhatsApp to someone to get assistance.
mm-hmm. Right, Alhamdulillah, that's great. Now take us back to your first Ramadan. What was that experience like for you?
My first Ramadan, I don't know if I can count it as my first Ramadan. Um, in Ramadan time, around about 2005, I hadn't reverted to Islam yet, um, but I fasted that year.
Mm-hmm.
I think I missed about a couple of days in that year, but I fasted that year. And then when I reverted to Islam, obviously 2006 would have been my first Ramadan. And I have to admit, it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I At that stage I had my husband guiding me also. And so he kind of made it a little bit simpler and a little bit easier also. So in 2005, when I fasted, it was all about learning how it was going to be done, seeing what challenges I was going to face. So when I reverted and I had my first Ramadan, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be, because when you speak to when you speak to some people, and when you talk about fasting for a whole month, they give you these wonderful and hard stories of how difficult it is and how much you're going to suffer. And I haven't, in all my years of fasting, I haven't come across those major difficulties. Yes, it's hard because you're not eating for a whole day or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the story, but for somehow Allah makes it so easy for you to actually fast for the whole day. You actually manage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a learning curve, and I've really enjoyed it.
Mashallah. Now, what are some of the frequently asked questions that people often ask you?
Yeah, no, not only questions, also the looks I'm getting. You need to understand, I married an Indian man, so,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a white lady. So whenever in the beginning, when we ever used to go to the mall and I was pushing my baby in a trolley or in a pram, you always get those people that have to make a point of looking inside the pram to see what color the child is. So yeah, so that's been quite fascinating at this stage. Um, so some of the questions are, why do you wear the hijab? Why do you have to wear a baya? Um, the main question was, why did you have to revert?
Mm.
There are many couples that are Muslim and Catholic or Muslim and Hindu. So there's a lot of mixed religion couples. Why did you have to revert? And that's the one answer I always say. I said, this was my decision to make. I did the research. I'm happy with the decision I've made. I'm not regretting any of the decisions I've made since I've reverted. It's come with its challenges, yes, as anything does, as life does. But I've seen the beauty of Islam in my life at this stage. So I've got no regrets whatsoever from reverting.
Mm-hmm. Now, many reverts that I've chatted to on this platform and had their stories shared, many of them mentioned community support being one of the challenges that they face, or the lack of community support, rather. And another one is, still being considered as a new Muslim, even though you've been Muslim for a very long time. Do you still face some of those?
I think in the beginning, when I first reverted, when my husband and I first got married, we had some of those major challenges. Um, I'll be honest, we used to visit some family, and nobody would talk to me at all. We used to be having lunch on the same table, and literally there wasn't a stitch of conversation on the table, only because I was there. And the one thing my husband always told me was, don't mind what everybody says, don't mind whatever they do, just greet, do your duty, and carry on. And I have to admit, the people that never talked to me in the beginning, if I can say, are my best friends right now.
Hmm.
So the community, from a family wise, that has helped. So we, from even from the extended family, we everything's on track, everything's fine with the extended family, also from my husband's side. Community wise, I can't say I've had any challenges with the community. If there's
Hmm.
anything that I need, or the communities or got issues with, or whatever, we all stand together. Even in the beginning, when I first reverted to Islam, we I have my mom, or my alima, or the person that I turn to. She's like literally 3, 4 doors away from where I'm staying. So if there's any challenges, you just take a walk down, and you try and get the assistance you need. So I think, luckily, in the community that it's a very tight knit community. We're not only Muslims. My neighbors are Hindus. I've got Catholic neighbors. I've got Muslim neighbors. So it's a whole community that we all stand together. We all assist one another. So
Hmm.
none of us are alone in the community that we currently live in, which is actually a brilliant. I think it's a beautiful way to live in. Everyone lives together. Everyone is happy with one another.
Hmm. Wow, mashallah, that I think is like the ideal community that everyone should be in, different languages, different faiths, different races, different social standards, but everybody coming together and helping one another for the greater good. Now, what is your advice to anyone who is interested in Islam?
I think the biggest advice is, do your research, find someone that you can turn to when you need assistance. Either if you find a sheikh that you can turn to, a community member that you can turn to, any family members that you can turn to, and ask for their assistance. Do your research, and also remember that all the research you find online, it's not always 100% true. You need to filter
Hmm.
out, you need to figure out what is the truth, what is not the truth. So that's where a person assisting you, and a person that you can trust, I think that's the most important thing. you have to find someone that you can turn to whenever you need some assistance. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest advice we can ask. It's not an easy journey to do on your own. You definitely need someone there to, let's call it, hold your hand as as you take the journey on. It's very difficult to do it on your own.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Amara, shukran so much for your time. Shukran for joining me today and for sharing your inspirational story with us.
Shukran for having me, and jazakallah so much.
All right. Have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Ammara Patel, our guest for my journey to Islam today, sharing her Revit story. I mean, she has been in South Africa for over 40 years, from originally from Portugal, and she's been a Muslim now for about 16 years, since 2006, but learning about Islam since 2005. So quite a journey. And if you have missed out on it, it is on Facebook. You can share it with your friends and families. And you can also leave your comments in the comment section or send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 061 766 0355. And if you know of anyone or if you would like to share your story with us, please get in touch. It is 8 minutes past 12. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media. We will be right back.